For today, it's been 2 full days since the Battle of the Five Gods, which happened last weekend. And so the topic I'm going to talk about today is five gods and 5 questions. So basically, I think we got a pretty good impression of, some of the holes that people have, or, some of the things that people could work on. And I'm just going to run down each of the 5 gods and just say, what I've observed over the course of the weekend. So, of course, there's Beauty King. Not the best 2016 so far for him, but he seems to have hit a niche with Smash 4, so I'm really happy that he picked Cloud and he's found a niche for himself there. But his melee game has been suffering, of course, racking up a lot of losses against non-Big Six players. And so if we really trace back to just the beginning of the year, even just 2 months ago, we've seen SFAT, Nintendo, Axe, Plup, and now Wobbles. And when he's in top shape, he looks really good, and it's just interesting. It's just a mystery of how can he get consistent, how can he get the right mindset. And that's one of the big questions that I have for him is he going to be able to find the right mindset to carry on day after day of a multi-day tournament? Because day one, I felt that he had the best confidence booster of a pool, where he played against a Falcon and a Samus and got revenge on Nintendo. I thought it was probably one of the easiest pools that he could have ever gone, and I thought he was going to ride the momentum. And then he had a bad mindset going into the last day, then had a bad dream and just didn't feel good about it. And coincidentally, he started tweeting and beating himself up even before his matches. So it seemed like he had a self-defeated mindset, and it was unusual that he lost to Plup, although I have to give kudos to Plup for playing really well. Beauty King usually doesn't lose. Sheik Dittos hasn't lost one in a while, ever since Shroomed at Apex 2015 last year. So I think the big question for him is, how can he sustain his mindset? I really am kind of sick and tired of all the Johns of the bad mindsets that come up. I really do believe that you do have to start taking action and be proactive over, playing the cards in a way that you can be prepared in the right way, because that's how athletes and top competitors are. The conditions aren't always going to be right. So I'm hoping that some sort of life coach comes in, maybe MVG or COG, and bring some sort of psychologist along with him, or something that could ultimately just help him get the right mindset going into a match when he's confident. I did an interview with Nintendo recently, and when Beauty King's really confident, he starts swinging, the reads start coming in, and he's able to control the pacing of the match. But when what we saw from Five Gods, he loses that close set, had some unfortunate moments with the Phantom hit against Plup, and then just looked mentally defeated against Wobbles. And with these with these players just rising up in their punish game, it does make it really frustrating to play against, whether it's Hungrybox is really solid defensive game or getting wobbled. There's a lot of things and shenanigans that happen, and I really do hope that he somehow finds some way, shape, or form of mental fortitude. So that's my little rant on Beauty King. So I really hope for the best for him. I really do hope that he solves that, because I think that he's really good when he's on the right mindset. PPMD, of course, I think the biggest thing we have for him is stamina. It's something that he's complained about a lot, and I really thought that after he lost to West Bowls that was it for the tournament for him, because I just didn't think he had the capacity or the stamina to play a full round robin. So that West Bowl set actually determined a lot for him, and we saw him just probably one of the worst performances from a god ever, losing 5 sets in a row. I've never seen that happen, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't. Losing to MacD, which I thought he would probably be very favored in, against Silent Wolf. I thought he was pretty favored in. Who else is in that pool? And then Wobbles, I thought could have won. So if we went back and looked at the pool, I would have said PPMD could easily 4-0 this pool. He could do Plup, although Plup I would say is a minor favorite. Wobbles I think he could do if he's on a good day. And I thought MacD and Silent Wolf were going to be free for him. Instead, he loses all 4 sets, and it's very clear that the persistence and the perseverance and the patience that was available to him at Apex 2015 where, you know, he went through a lot of these really close games and close sets that he was able to grind out and find the right read and find the right play and play just patient enough to make his opponent make the wrong move to win those sets. Keep in mind, last year, even at Apex 2015, all those games were close, but he fought really hard to win those games, win those sets, and ultimately win the tournament. I didn't quite see that same grit. It seemed like he was mentally defeated, in a sense that, like, not so much mentally defeated in the sense that he defeated himself, but he just didn't have enough energy to carry on, where I think his energy and his focus was just on survivor mode, where, you know, he was focusing on, like, I just got to get through this, I got to get through this for my mind, as opposed to, like, looking for the right read and looking to survive. So it's unfortunate, and I really do hope that he does, you know, come back and find a solution. I'm not sure what that is, but, you know, I have to give him kudos for ultimately, you know, coming to this event knowing that he was going to be fully prepared just to set the narrative and just to bring the tournament together. So I really do hope that PPMD, you know, does get better out of this. And then next we have, you know, Armada, who got third. And I think the big question that I have for him is, now that we've seen some inconsistency, especially with the Fox, which is normal for a Spacies main, what he can do to set himself up to play his Fox at full capacity at any given moment, because he's had to settle on Peach a lot, and his Peach is really solid, but we saw from Genesis 3 and now this tournament, and even debatably B6, where, you know, he loses the left in set 1, it does take him some time to get into the Fox mode, and I think that is a big weakness that Armada is going to have to address. I believe he went 8-2 as Peach and 0-5 as Fox in day 3, getting swept by Hungrybox and losing and falling behind in the set against Mango 0-2. So the big question for him is, A, can he find the right controller to play Fox at a high level immediately, and can he warm up to that Fox mode right away? Because the amount of time it's taking Armada to warm up his Fox is hurting him, and it ultimately hurt his chances of winning Battle of the Five Gods, and it almost hurt him at Genesis 3 too, where his Fox wasn't up to par and he had to rely on Peach. And there might be a day where Mango starts figuring out the Peach. I do believe that Armada does have the edges in the Peach-Fox matchup, but if he's expected to, you know, warm up his Fox, especially against Hungrybox, he's got to find out a way to get in that mode right away. Whether it's paying a Prince Abu, I don't know, like, to fly out to every tournament he's at, or he just got to do something. I don't know what the routine is, but he's got to figure it out. But overall, like, not too many worries about Armada. Like, one tournament where he gets third place, his worst placing actually since What the Fox, which was in July. So he hasn't placed worse than second since over 8 months ago. So not gonna be too hard on Armada, but that is a worry and a concern I have for him, especially, you know, when we move forward and he's heralded for being so consistent. And his Peach will carry him, you know, against everybody except for Armada. It'll carry him against everybody except for Mango, or rather Leffen and Hungrybox. So when Leffen starts coming around, that's going to be at an interesting mix, because that's another person he's going to have to prepare Fox for. So that's for Armada. Mango, it's very interesting. Once again, you know, he has an early losers appearance after losing to West Poles, and it has to carry through, runs out of steam. So ultimately, losers run Mango is just way too hard, given how much people have improved, and given how much of a mental toll it takes to overcome Armada and Hungrybox. They're just so solid defensively that to think of creative ways to break their defenses and to constantly think a level ahead is really tiring. It's not so much I'm drowning for Mango, but more so that Mango's going to have to start coming from winner's bracket and actually make it really far so that he can preserve his mental space and carry on. Because, you know, fatigue is a factor, and you do get tired from playing extended sets against very defensive players, and so credits to Hungrybox and Armada for pushing Mango in that direction of making him run out of quote-unquote juice. But that ultimately means that Mango's going to have to start, you know, having a streak in winners, preserving his mental energy, and being able to just carry that through, as opposed to playing nearly 20 games all the way from losers and going through that all the way into the very end. Some concerns, you know, Mango once again lost to Hungrybox. Hungrybox is just a really good player. Did 3-0 him in the first set, so there is some promise. Did see quite a quite a bit of flubs from Mango, some sloppiness, and especially Game 3 and Game 4 of Set 2, where he was trying to force too much, in my opinion. And once again, he recognizes that in his interview. So once again, discipline is going to have to play a large role here for him going up ahead. And discipline was a large part of why he was so successful in 2014 with MLG and EVO, was that, you know, he was winning those nail-biting sets. He was clutching out matches because he was sticking to his game plan. And, you know, he did, you know, add a little bit of dose of Mango, but his game plan, especially against Armada's Peach, was so good at MLG. And granted, Armada has improved since then. I haven't seen Mango play with that level of discipline in a really long time. So hopefully, you know, Mango continues to warm up. His Fox is looking really good. So for some positives, you know, Mango did once again take 2 more games off of Armada in the Fox Ditto. So one of the biggest weaknesses he had over the summer, one of the mental blocks, was him trying to figure out, ultimately, how do I play the Fox Ditto? How do I play Fox? Can I even play my own style anymore? And that was a big question that Mango struggled with over the summer, and he almost lost his identity trying to struggle between the let's play the Swedish style and let's play my style. And I think that's part of the reason why he didn't do too well, because he was trying to figure out like what style fits him, and ultimately I think he's slowly beginning to discover more and more of like how he operates. Although his punish game and, you know, his throw combos, you know, his tech skill have improved immensely too. But he slowly needs to find an identity in Fox, and I think he's doing it. Lastly, Hungrybox, I think the big question I have for him, you know, no complaints, you know, he did win. Really dominating performance, hasn't lost a set against a non-god in a best of 5 set since press start. He did have that, if we're not counting locals, I'm pretty sure there's like a local where Plup or Cole will have like taken sets. But he's only really lost to Professor Pro as a bad loss in the past, in a best of 3 set even, and he's looked so good. I think the big question I have for him is can he win 2 super majors in a row? And I think that's going to be the real test. With now that everybody's going to be focusing on how to beat Hungrybox, and now we throw Leffen in the mix, Leffen who's normally given him, you know, a lot of trouble. We'll see at Smash Summit, you know, how they play, how they interact. But, you know, this is a really high period for Hungrybox, and this is his chance to cement a little bit of a mini run, you know, a dominating streak. Arguably, if you look at 2016 right now, he's actually done better than Armada. If you look at the results, just for 2016, you know, just looking at the small picture, I wouldn't say that Hungrybox is the best player, but, you know, he is, or the best player overall in the world, but, you know, he's definitely making more and more of a case. And at least if you look at 2016 results, you know, I think he's arguably done better than Armada, winning records on almost everybody, including Mango. Does he? I think he has a winning record on Armada now. I have to, actually, I may be wrong on that. I think they're tied. Okay, so I'm wrong on that. They Armada won Genesis and Hungrybox won Battle of Five Gods. So at least he's tied Armada. You know, other players haven't even really come close. They take a game. So yeah, that's just the big question for Hungrybox is can he make a dominating run that lasts like at least 6 months.